Alrighty, here we go with today's lesson, which we are going to start on section 4, which is adding integers. So what I need you to do is write this heading at the top of your notes, 1-4, adding integers. And again, as always, pause the video whenever you need to. All right, today's learning targets. Okay, and that is our I can statement. So by the end of the lesson today, you can add integers. And that would be whether you have 2 positive numbers, 2 negative numbers, or 1 positive and 1 negative number, and be able to evaluate that successfully. So it's a very simple I can statement today. We're just going to be adding and dealing with positives and negatives. That's our objective today. All right, so the first thing I need you to look at here is we've talked about opposites. We've also used the term additive inverses, and these two are opposites of each other, and they add up to being 0. There's this concept that is called making 0 pairs, and so every single positive number or positive marker here that I've got laid out matches up with a negative one, and they basically wipe each other out and go to 0. So this positive one and this negative one, they wipe each other out and go to 0. Same with this one, same with this one, same with this one. So opposites always add up to 0. If we think of it on a number line, and oftentimes on our Minnesota tests, we ask you to illustrate this on a number line. If you show addition on a number line, here's how you do it. You start at 0 and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A positive number you think goes in the right direction, forward. If I'm adding a negative 5, okay, so here I am at 5. That's a positive 5. Now to illustrate adding negative 5, negative means I'm going to move to the left, or in other words, going backwards on the number line. So I pick up where I left off here, and in fact, just to illustrate that a little better, maybe I'll change color. So I start from here, and I'm going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the negative direction to the left, and then you look at where you land, and we land right back at 0 again. All right. Got that idea down. So now, if I'm asking you to look at a number line and illustrate an addition between 2 numbers here, and maybe I can move this up a little bit so it's a little easier to see on the screen. So if I say, could you please demonstrate for me what 8 plus negative 3 looks like on a number line? I'm going to say this. All right, we're going to start at 0. I'm going to go to the right 8 units because 8 is positive. I'm going to the right, 8. Okay, got that part done, going to the right. Then I want to add negative 3. That idea means we're going to go back to the left 3 units, 1, 2, 3. Negative 3. Where do you land? You land right there at 5. And sure enough, that's your final answer. To the right, 8, backwards 3. There you go. Okay. Ooh, how about this one now? Negative 6 and negative 3. So if I start at 0, my first number is negative, which means I need to travel 6 units to the left. So boom, 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 boom. Here's negative 6 right here. Now my next number is also negative. It means I'm going to continue moving to the left 3 more units. 1, 2, 3. Where do you land? Your final answer is right there at negative 9. Okay. Now, if that particular one doesn't make sense using the number line, and like I said, you'll probably see an example like that on the Minnesota tests, what if we used some positive and negative chips or counters like this? And maybe this method will make more sense to you. So let's take a look at an example. And this time I've got negative 7, and I'm going to add positive 3. To illustrate this, and what you can do in your notes is simply take and make like 7 negative signs. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, so there's 7 negatives. And then we have 3 positives. I'm using yellow little circles here. Okay, Now here's what happens. Every single one of these negative guys counteracts one of these positive guys, and they wipe each other out. They like neutralize each other. I always say they're kind of lining up like in a battle, and they kind of just go, they wipe each other out and go to zero. And then basically you have to say, well, what's left? Who's left standing? I happen to have 4 negative chips left. There you go. -4. That's your final answer with the addition. Okay, let's take a look at a couple others to see how you'd illustrate this. And in fact, let's just make some up. So what if I had something like -2 plus 6, something like that. Okay, so then what you do is we'll say, all right, I got to have 2 negatives, okay, and they kind of line up like they're going to do battle across from each other. And then I have 6 positives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here we go. 2 negatives and 6 positives, and they're going to do battle. Now here's what happens. This negative and this negative and this positive basically neutralize each other. They go to zero. And then you have to see what's left. What's left standing? Well, I happen to have 4 left on the positive army, let's say, and there's your final answer. What if I have 2 negatives? Okay, so what if I had a problem like this? -3 plus -8, let's say. Well, I changed my mind. I might not have that many chips up there. So let's say -3 plus -4, something like that. All right, so if I'm thinking in terms of my counters, I have -3, okay, and then I have 4 more negatives. Now, these guys really aren't battling against each other because look at them. They're all on the same team. So really, you just kind of have to total them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You see, there's nobody basically on the other side that they're trying to do battle with here. Okay, there's no positive guys on this army. So automatically, the negative team wins, and there happens to be -7 of them. There you go. Now, we're going to do a lot of practicing with this, but basically, what I hope you get to is this point where we come up with a rule. And the rules for adding integers look like this. If you have the same sign, meaning they're both positive or both negative, basically you take what I call the number parts, or in other words, the absolute values of the numbers, and you simply combine or add those together. Okay, and then the sign of your answer is going to be whatever both signs are. Okay, so the sign of your answer, if you had both positive numbers, your final answer sign is going to be positive. So it's the same as what your numbers were. Okay, so you add the values and your sign stays the same as what your numbers were. If we have different signs where you have one positive number and one negative number, here's what happens. First of all, because they're different, you have to take the 2 number values, in other words, the 2 absolute values, and subtract them. So subtract the absolute values. Then, to determine what your sign is, here's how it works. The sign is going to be whichever team or whatever army had the most members, or whoever was what I call stronger. Okay? The stronger sign wins. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, let's take a look at a few examples then. Let's say I had something like -7 plus 12. Okay, so the first thing you're going to say is, aha, my signs are different. And if my signs are different, then I know what I have to do is come off to the side and take the 2 absolute values, the 2 number parts, the 12 and the 7, and I need to subtract them, find the difference. Okay, so I get a 5. That's the number part of your answer. And then you have to determine what's the